You're listening to Being Autistic. I'm your host, Shelly, and I am a 50-year-old woman sharing my experiences about what it's like to grow up knowing I was different but not knowing why, how I learned I was on the autism spectrum, and what it's like to be autistic. Hello, everyone. In this episode, I'm going to talk about something that I struggle with all the time, and I have heard that this is something that a lot of autistic people struggle with, and that is paperwork, forms, legal stuff, all of the things that suck. And so I'm going to talk about some examples of these things, why they are hard, and all the different examples of them that I can think of. So I'm going to start with what's I've been struggling with lately is paperwork and forms for things like applying for things. So like I'm applying for SSDI, and I'm also reapplying, like recertifying for food stamps, which was grocery assistance. So when you need to fill out paperwork and forms for these things, it's just a ginormous amount of information that they need from you, and it's all numbers. And I struggle with, I think it's pronounced dyscalculia or whatever it is, where you struggle with math, numbers, and those things have always been impossible for me. Like I got D's in math class. I had to take some grades over. I had struggled with homework with math, and even to this day I need to use my fingers to count. I need a calculator. There's no way that, like, I don't even remember right now what like 6 times 9 is. So anything with numbers is extremely difficult for me and a lot of people with autism. So when you're filling out forms and paperwork, 99% of the time it's going to be dealing with numbers. So you're going to be dealing with your income. You're going to be dealing with writing down information from your past. Like, for example, I'm going to go through what I had to do for the food stamps thing. So they want to know your income for the previous, or the year, whatever. So this is fine if you have a job and if you get a W-2 form that clearly states how much you made. Then you just print that off and show it to them, and it can be a little simpler. But it still is a hassle because, I'm speaking for myself here, but as an autistic person, I have always struggled with this, like trying to find all of this information that they want. I'm not good at keeping the information all in one place, organized. I should be, because I love to organize things, but not things that have to do with legal stuff and numbers and forms and paperwork. I usually just cram those things in a folder, and I have so many folders in so many different places. It's just so hard. And I don't have an actual job. I have online stuff that I do. So it's like self-employment, I guess. But my income is different depending on the day. I could have a day where I make no money. I could have a day where I make $50. So, and I also have 3 different places where my money comes from for my self-employment. And then I also have money that I get from inherited IRA, which is when my dad passed away, I'm required to withdraw a certain amount of money from this with IRA, which is basically supposed to be for retirement, but I'm required to withdraw it because whatever. It's a long story, but I don't need to go into it. But basically, I have that income. I have the income from my Etsy shop. I have an income from my Amazon books. I have an income from Udemy online courses. So all of these different numbers, they're different all the time. And I don't have like a simple form that tells me how much it is. I have to go on all of these websites, find my payment history, or the history of how much I got paid for these things, and I have to print them all off, and then if that's not bad enough, they don't understand how to take it, so they have to call me well, if talking on the phone is another horrible thing that I hate doing, because it's it's something that autistic people struggle with, me especially. I used to have mutism when it came to the phone. I sometimes just simply couldn't talk, couldn't answer it. It just was horrible. So I had to deal with talking on the phone, and where I live, I don't get very good phone reception with my cell phone, so it was constantly cutting out, constantly dropping calls. And so what should have taken 5 minutes took like a half an hour to talk to this woman about my numbers, and I'm not good with numbers. So she's asking me questions like, so is this number correct? And she rattled off all these numbers, and I'm like, yes, because that's the information I gave them before. Why is she asking me again? Like, I can't verify a second time that is correct. I would have to go back and find my paperwork again. So the thing is, she didn't understand why my income was different all the time. Why can't I just say what my income is? Because it's based on sales. It's completely up in the air. I have no control over how many sales I make, and it fluctuates, like I said, from one day to the next. So I had to deal with that. And then, so when I was applying for SSDI, that's even a more in-depth thing, because they need to know all of your records, medical records, mental health therapy records. And so, you're going back throughout your whole entire life, trying to remember. And the thing is, these forms and these paperworks, they always want details that I didn't even know at the time, and now I'm expected to remember them 30 years later. So they wanted to know, like, the address of my hospital and the phone number and the doctor that I was like 10 years old. I don't understand. As an autistic person, things need to make sense to me. I don't understand how they expect us to we're not like, well, I'm not like a walking encyclopedia of information when it comes to things like this, because I barely go to the doctor anyway. I have my I have my mental health information online. So like, I don't memorize it. I couldn't even tell you what year I started going to therapy, and they want to know the month you started going, the day you have your next appointment, the address and the phone number of all of your doctors and therapists. And, it's stressful just thinking about how you're going to get that information. It's a lot of digging around. And here's the other thing with the paperworks in the form. It was always things that, like, I don't even know how to put this into words. I'm getting overwhelmed just thinking about it. So they don't give very much clarification. They don't explain things in plain English, how to do these things. So I've been talking to some people online, like, what's the process? Why didn't I get this form? And they're like, you should have gotten this form. And I'm like, well, I didn't get this form, so how do I find this form? And then I had to find the form, print it, fill it out, and mail it to the place that I mailed the other forms to. But then, like literally a day or two after I mailed those, I got the forms in the mail from a different place. Same exact forms, but they are supposed to go to a different place. I had spent 2 full days filling out those forms. 2 full days of stress, and that's why I'm stressed out just talking about it, because it was digging around, trying to remember information, trying to find information in my records that are scattered everywhere, and it's numbers. I can't stand dealing with numbers. So it was just 2 days of stress, and I went through all that for nothing. I drove to the post office and mailed the thing for nothing, because I found out that the place that I mailed it to, which is also the place that I mailed the other stuff to, doesn't deal with those 2 forms, only the other forms. So why are they not all going to the same place? So I found out that this place that I mailed them to is probably just going to throw them in the garbage. That's what I was told. And so I had no choice but to go through the effort of filling the forms out again. And the other thing is, they needed these forms by Christmas Day, which is 5 days from now. But this was like 3 days ago when they mailed this to me. So I had to quick hurry, refill them out again, mail them again, hope that they get them. And now I'm just drained. I am just completely mentally exhausted from all of this mental stress of filling out forms. And so I'm crossing my fingers that it was good enough. But here's the thing. When most people apply for disability, they don't get it. And I'm probably going to get denied, and that means that I'm either going to have to give up and try to find a job again, which is, I can't even go into that right now, but the other option would be like to hire a lawyer and an appeal. And that, of course, would involve more paperwork, more legal stuff that I don't understand. And, you know, I know lawyers are supposed to work on your behalf, but I'm hearing a lot of stories of lawyers not doing much. I've heard of people that are autistic that have hired lawyers to get on disability, and the lawyers basically didn't do much, they didn't help too much, and they did not get approved. So in that case, you know, the lawyer does not get paid, but you still went through all of that stress and effort for nothing. So it's... And, you know, things should be simple and easy, and it's not, and that in itself is an issue for me. I don't understand why things have to be so difficult. And I think my best guess is, from what people have told me, that the system doesn't care about autistic people and their struggles. They want to hear that, okay, you're in a coma, you can't work, okay. But if you struggle with everything that autistic people struggle with, plus depression and anxiety and overwhelm and meltdowns and panic attacks, then you should be expected to work. And so this is what I've heard from other people that say they are not going to make this easy for you. They're making it hard on purpose. They are making it hard on purpose to weed out the people that can't handle the effort. And the effort is the paperwork and the forms and the runaround and jumping through hoops and waiting. And another thing that I've been struggling with in all of this is waiting for a caseworker, which is like a social worker person that's supposed to help you with daily things and paperwork. They're supposed to help you with all the legal stuff that you can't do. So 2 months ago, I started the process to get a caseworker. Do you think I have one? You know, that's the whole problem with the system. I'm still waiting. It's been 2 months. And the thing is, I've actually contacted multiple places. I've told my therapist about it, and she said she was going to hook me up with a different one, and she still has not done that yet. I contacted a place that works with disabled people to help them with these support systems. All they did was talk to me on the phone for a couple minutes, and then they said, well, we'll let you know what we can do for you, and if we can't help you, we'll give you some lists of some lawyers to help you. That was a month ago at least, if not a month and a half. I'm still not heard back from them. The original place I went to, where I had an assessment, and yes, they approved me for a caseworker, they have still never once contacted me to let me know the result of that. I know only because my therapist got a message back from them, and I have messaged them myself a couple times, and all they say is, I'm gonna have to pass that along, and I'll let you know what I find out. And she still never lets me know anything. I just keep asking what's going on, and they keep saying, I'll go find out. You know, so we're getting the runaround. And if you are trying to get on SSDI disability, then you probably are familiar with this struggle, because this is the most hardest thing I've ever done in my life as far as paperwork, legal stuff, all that. I mean, it was bad enough applying to get state health insurance and for the SNAP benefits, the grocery assistance. It was bad enough to do those, because those are basically just your income information and, you know, your assets, which that's a whole nother thing too. But anyway, like, yeah, this disability application is, I mean, on one hand, I get why it has to be so comprehensive. Like, they need to know everything about you. But because, not anybody should get on disability, but here's the thing. With autism, at least with me, the hardest part is the mental part. The hardest part is the anxiety, the confusion, the overwhelm, the the dyscalculia, that I can't do numbers. Like, somebody could tell me a number and literally 5 seconds later I would not remember it. So this lady on the phone asking me if that was my income, I'm like, sure, if that's what the thing said that I sent you, sure. I don't know right now. So, like, it's mental. It's all mental. And the disability system is not really set up to adequately help people that are mentally disabled. It's more set up for physical disabilities. So people with physical disabilities, sure, here's a simple thing that's wrong with my body. Here's my doctor that says this is wrong with my body. And I'm fine mentally, so I'm able to go through the effort of this process. But an autistic person that struggles with mental stress and confusion and overwhelm, it's a struggle every step of the way. And that's why I decided to make this episode, because that's what I'm really struggling with right now. I think I'm done, but it's always something new. Like, they're probably going to have to call me and ask me questions on the phone like the other people did. And then I'm going to say, I don't know why you're asking me, because I already gave you the information and it's all correct as far as I know. And so here's the other thing. Like, the people that I was trying to get to help me, the caseworker, their job is to help people with things that they can't handle. Paperwork and forms and, daily chores, getting to appointments, doing anything that they can't do in their life. And I've been waiting 2 months for that. And that's when I started this process of trying to get on disability. And, I thought that I would have had somebody by now to help me with that. But the problem is they have these deadlines. Like I said, they needed the paperwork by Christmas. So I was like, I can't wait for help. I have to struggle with this on my own. And so here's another thing I wanted to mention about forms and paperwork. When it comes to my brain, anyway, this is how I work. I usually need more clarification on things. When somebody says, here's what we need, here's the line where you write your information, and that's it. That's all for that little section. But they didn't give enough detail. They didn't clarify enough. And so my brain's going, well, do they want this or do they want that? Do they want both? What if this is true? What if that's true? What do I put? There was just so many questions that I didn't really, like one of the questions, for example, was I was supposed to tell them everything that I did in my job, each job. And I've had like 14 jobs. So they want to know how much weight I lifted, how many feet or yards I carried the things that I was lifting. Whoever remembers those things? Like, some of my jobs I've had 35 years ago, and I'm supposed to remember how much everything weighed and how far I carried it, and I'm supposed to write all of that down, because technically you lift and carry probably hundreds of things at your jobs. It might be simple, it might be one thing, but then you're lucky if it's just that one thing, but it's never that just one thing. Because, for one example, one of my jobs, I was there for 18 years, and I had like 15 different positions in that job, and so I'm supposed to tell them everything that I lifted, everything that I carried in each of those positions, because there's probably 20 things for each position, and that's just one job. So, like, I'm doing the best I can with this, and I'm just kind of guessing at some of it. And they also want to know how much money you made, and that was a guessing game as well, because numbers, I don't do numbers. I remember a ballpark figure, like I know I made less than $10 or more than $15, but I don't remember if it was $13.25. Like, seriously. I don't understand why they need that detail. So a lot of the questions I didn't know, there was not enough explanation, so I just wrote whatever. And I'm really worried now that they're not going to accept my application because my answers were probably not right for them. And the other thing that they want on these forms for disability anyway is they want to know how your condition affects your ability to work. And so, as you know, if you're autistic and you struggle with work, you could probably write a book about it. I mean, I have a full hour episode about how I struggled with work, and they give you one little paragraph space to write down how your disability affects your job or affects your work. And so how do you say that when it comes to autism? Because there are social difficulties, there are behavioral difficulties, there are sensory difficulties, there's panic attacks, meltdowns, anxiety, depression. How in the world are you supposed to write down all the ways that all of those things affect your job and your life? So I basically wrote, autism spectrum disorder affects my life every minute of the day in every way. And then I kind of went to say, social struggles, work struggles, and, how could I just explain that? Because, like I said, I could talk about that for a week. And, I just hope that it's enough for them. And here's what I really hope, that they actually have somebody there that knows about autism. Because if they're just going by what I say, they're not going to understand. They don't know why my inability to handle loud noises and bright lights is going to affect my job, because how do you do that? I'm going to have to go and give them every single example. Am I supposed to say things like, I had to go and hide in the bathroom in the darkest stall away from the light for a long time, like longer than I was supposed to be in there? Is that the kind of stuff I'm supposed to write down? Because there wasn't enough space to write that down. There wasn't enough. And so this is what I struggle with. Like, how do they expect me to answer these questions when it would take so much to explain everything? And so, yeah, that's just a very stressful thing for me, and I'm just praying that they can accept my application, because if they don't accept it, that means I'm going to have to go through all of this over again and hire a lawyer. And then, the lawyer has paperwork that I have to sign and understand, and it's all legal things. And, I did an episode about things about the world that are hard for autistic people. Like, if the world was only different in these ways, it would be easier for us and everybody. And one of those things that I talked about in that episode was legal stuff, such as, one example that would pertain to this episode would be legal terms. So when you're signing a form, you don't understand all these legal terms unless legal things is your special interest. Then you're going to be perfect at this. But, it's not a natural thing. Legal stuff is a man-made thing. It's complicated, and there's a reason for that, because lawyers get paid a lot of money to learn this complicated stuff. And so if I do have to appeal and go through a lawyer, I'm going to have to find a lawyer that will be able to explain everything in plain English for a simple-minded person. And, if you are one of those autistic people that has a very high IQ, then you might, grasp this stuff easier. But I am pretty low on the IQ list. I don't know what it is, but my IQ is so low that I wasn't even able to take the test because I didn't understand the questions. I would have been just guessing at them, so it wouldn't have been an accurate number. And so throughout my life, I've always felt that I was not smart, especially when it comes to these legal things. And, I think a smart person can easier fill out forms. To me, I feel like I have the mentality of maybe a 10-year-old. Like, if you were to have a 10-year-old child and handed them a form to fill out, they're not going to be able to do it, especially when it's like things that these places ask you. So that's how I feel when it comes to those sorts of things. Why I struggle with forms and paperwork is because I have never progressed past a child's mentality when it comes to my approach to life. I feel like you have to be really smart, or you have to be really obsessed with that information in order to be able to do it. So like maybe some of you out there are really good at filling out forms, but I don't know, this is something that I hear a lot of people struggle with. And I mean, it comes down to, it's kind of like an executive dysfunction thing, I think, because a lot of us struggle to, keep records. A lot of things are done online now. So like, how do you organize things that are on websites in different places? And like I said, I have folders full of information, but like it's mental effort to go through it to find the things you need. And so, yeah, it took me 2 days to fill out this paperwork. And once I'm done with this episode, I'm going to feel such relief because I needed to vent about this. So, yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about the legal stuff. And it's an unnatural thing. I think autistic people are drawn towards art and are drawn towards soothing their anxiety, and so they're drawn towards things that are natural, being in nature and listening to music and moving their body around, using fidget toys, watching shows that they're comfortable with, that they're familiar with. They're not good at things like adult things. Like, you have to put all of that aside and you have to be like a professional, mature adult when you're doing these things. And like I talked about in that other episode about, things about the world that could be different. Why does it have to be so complicated? These programs that are designed for disabled people, they're not easy to get through. And I did an episode about disability last week, if you want to listen to that. That's all about, whether or not autism is a disability. And it is in the eyes of the government because they do give disability benefits for autistic people. Although, like I said, it's a struggle. I'm going through it right now, and I'm probably going to get denied at least the first time if I even go through it again. So it's just, life is hard enough for autistic people. Why does the programs that are supposed to help us, why are they designed to make it harder? We struggle enough with life. Just getting through a typical day is hard enough without this stuff. Like a lot of people struggle with taking showers. A lot of people struggle with cooking meals for themselves. A lot of people struggle with having a job. So how are we supposed to, on top of all that, deal with all this legal paperwork that is out of our league? At least it's out of mine. It's so far from what my soul resonates with. Like, if I could spend my perfect day doing anything, I would probably hula hoop, dance, swing on the swing set, go for a walk outside, listen to music, go to see music playing live, just all of that pleasurable stuff that's soothing for my anxiety. And to add, to make it so that your whole entire day has to be filling out paperwork, 2 full days is how much I spent doing that. And the whole time I was doing it, I'm thinking, this is probably not even going to be any use at all because they're probably going to deny it. And, like I said, they don't understand our mental struggles. They think that, if you're physically unable to leave your house, that's like the only way that you'll qualify, it feels like. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that have been trying to get on disability for years, and they have like multiple health issues, and they still get denied. So how is someone that's able-bodied going to get approved? And the whole thing is the mental thing. Mental disabilities are just as disabling as physical ones because they're invisible and nobody sees them, so everybody expects you to be able to do these same things. And this comes down to masking, and I've mentioned before, I believe that work and a lot of these things are masking because we're forcing ourselves to, we're forcing our brains to do something that is not natural, that is not comfortable, that is not easy. and it's stressful, and it causes burnout. And I am so burnt out on paperwork right now. Like, I feel like if I get denied, I'm probably just going to give up. And I know a lot of people have been pushing me to not give up. They're like, they want this to be hard for you. They want this. They know that we struggle with this paperwork, so just do it, and it'll be worth it in the end. And I'm like, is it though? Ugh. You know, part of me just kind of wishes that I could handle things that are easier. Like, getting a job would be easier in the way that, like, they take care of you. Like, they give you the paperwork that's got all your information, and you just hand it off to the tax person or whoever you need to hand it to. You know, there is no advocating for yourself. You don't have to fight for your rights. You just go through life and your job takes care of you. I wish that I could do that, and I struggled with that for decades, and I can't. So yeah, listen to my episode about work if you're interested to hear more about the backstory of why work is not working for me. And a lot of people have no problem with it if they find the right job. But for me, it's more than just the actual physical job. I can physically do the things. I just can't find the environment that's conducive to my mental wellness. I can't find the environment that I can be productive in, that I can thrive in, that doesn't destroy my mental health. You know, I hit burnout with every single job I've had, and I had to, you know, I couldn't do it, and I was in a constant state of fight or flight, and you know, I couldn't fight no more, so I just flee. You know, I just run away. I gotta go somewhere else and try it again. And right now I'm just done, just absolutely done. And you know, that's what makes me scared, is this paperwork that I've had to go through just proves how this is because I can't fall in line with the simple way that the world is designed. Get a job and be productive and just do it, and you don't have to worry about all this stuff. I would not have to be worried at all about this paperwork and all these forms and all these deadlines and all this information and all these records and all these numbers. I wouldn't have to worry about them if I could just have a job and didn't need to struggle to advocate for myself. And, you know, I'm at a loss for words now. Like, why does the government say that autism is a disability, but yet they don't give us the support that we need to get the support for the disability? You know, it's like a vicious circle to me. It seems like the way that the system is designed, it's designed for us to struggle. The very things that we struggle with about life are the very things that we need to struggle through to get the support for the things that we struggle with in life. And it's just boggles my mind how we're in this modern age where we can do anything, but yet they still cannot help us with the support that we need to survive. And it's just, you know, the core of this is really the way that the world is. And that's why I suggested listening to my episode about the way that the world could be. All of the unnatural things about the world that autism or autistic people usually struggle with. And, you know, the world could be so much of a simpler place. Like, why are things not simple? Why do they make things so hard? And maybe this is just an autistic problem. I don't hear neurotypical people complaining about paperwork and forms being stressful and hard. They just fill them out. They don't have any questions. They understand the directions. They have the answers. They do it, and it's done, and it's that simple. But, you know, like, this is how I have been with so many things in my life, where everything is just harder, and the hard things are almost impossible. Like, I can't imagine anything like this being harder than it already is. So, you know, I think at this point I'm probably just venting about how hard it is, and nobody wants to hear that for an hour, so I'm going to end this episode now. I hope that this episode helped you at least feel a little less alone if you struggle with paperwork, forms, and legal stuff, because I don't know any autistic people that find this easy. And I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there, but if you clicked on this, it's probably because you also share the struggle. So I hope this was helpful. Even though I have no suggestions, I have no advice, I just wanted to highlight that this is an issue, and I wish that the world could be changed in this way to make it easier for us. But like I'm finding out, a lot of the mental health field professionals don't really care about us enough to change the system for us. So we struggle. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next week's episode.